what his opinion about this, so we should have something that everybody would have, you know, it just, I don't want it openly enforced.
From the chair to the
Yeah.
enforcement.
No problem.
Okay, Barbado, are we still back on that?
Can we go back for one more second?
Sure.
And I feel like what's happening is, I'm a little frustrated because I don't let this happen in business, that we keep going back and forth with the same things, and there's never resolution, because the statement's made over here, and the statement's made over here, but there's never any cross between that, so how can we get past that? How can we answer some of the questions that are brought up in the public hearing that we either are through with or we don't care about, but we should just take, you know, I'm just saying, there were 6 items brought up. Should we address those 6 items and just put them in bed so we don't have to hear about them every month? Because we've been hearing about them every month, and
Well,
I don't wanna hear about them
They
every
have
month.
to do with the site map, and it's still being developed, you know, we just heard tonight.
Now-
Not all of them,
now-
You know,
but-
and fun.
They brought up, the public has brought up lots of points,
Right.
and we've
Incorporated.
addressed it
Yeah.
and incorporated them into the prints.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing, you know, 3, apart from the code enforcement issue, there's really 2 main items. One is the traffic,
Right.
which, my understanding is our hands are tied, it's determined by the state.
Yeah,
I
it's a
would say.
state road.
We
Right.
can't do a thing
We
about
can't
it, so.
Tell them to put up a traffic
Right.
light. Their engineers looked the things over and made the decision.
Right, I understand, and I understand they're hard to
So-
deal with because I've worked them myself.
We
but
can't, yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, we're all done with the traffic.
It's out of our purview.
It's a shame because,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah, it's a state decision because it's a state road. The second major point, of course, is the hydrology. And we've retained an engineer
That's gonna look at
to
that.
have a look at the drainage,
Right.
specifically
Right.
the wash coming off the
but
station.
more
you know,
so
just-
some of the legal issues with this new attorney's letter that I got last week and I read, and it seems like they're bringing up certain valid points, and I understand there's always 2 sides to everything, so, I mean, could we take that letter and just go through those points and make sure that we're not missing something? That, I don't know, I don't get involved with legal stuff because that's what lawyers do, so.
Well, some of them may, you know, I addressed.
Right. But there's still a lot of the ones that haven't been,
Negative.
so I just wanna make sure that we dot all the i's and cross all the t's and make sure that, but it doesn't seem like sometimes there's a dialogue, because that's not the way it's set up here. Like,
Right.
But apart from the traffic and the hydrology, the aquifer,
Right,
what is, and the permit,
right.
what are the other?
Well, there's 2 or 3 points that the gentleman brought up, tonight, that, you know, whether the permits are valid or not valid, or.
Yeah,
That's
so
all
we'll
tied
make that
together to what he
determination,
just
yeah.
said. yeah.
But apart from those 3,
Well, there's 3 there, there's 2 there, there's 1 there, just wanna try and just get some resolution on some of them, so we can, put, like the other things that were brought up, put them in bed. So, I don't know how we do that.
I think
We
we
can't
hear,
talk about it privately, so we're talking about it.
No, we don't do
I
that.
think we will hear from the engineer, the consulting engineer,
Right.
about some really important things that
And-
that he'll be given, or she will be given.
A lot of the things are, in the public hearing, are laid on us.
Right.
Do you know how much going through, looking up things? Like, for instance, to answer her question from last month, I had to go back through reading all the minutes, month after month, going backwards to find the answer. Because we all knew that we did that,
Right,
just didn't know when.
but now we'll never have to
Well,
talk
Right,
about
so
it.
that's one of the reasons they don't get answered right away.
The ultimate thing that is the obligation of the board is to go through the standards of review in the code for a site plan review.
Can you talk louder, please?
Sure, so there are, all kinds of issues can come up in the courses. The ultimate obligation of the board is to go through the provisions of the site plan review that are set out in the code, the standards that need to be met, and answer those questions. Now, though there are standards that need to be met, but the specific factual issues and questions, people bring them up. Some of them will be found to need change or mitigation. Some of them will be judged to be not meaningful enough that they're in violation of the standards that we, but ultimately, you're guided by the standards that are in that section of the code, which is quite extensive. And we're gonna need to get through, and we can start doing this, going through them and asking the questions, does it meet this? Does it meet this? Doesn't it meet this? And obviously, lots and lots of issues come up. Some of them are outside the scope of what's addressed in that. Some of them are within the scope and are significant enough to need things done. Some of them you may judge are not. But in the end, there's the list of things, and you have to compare the project to those lists of things. The public hearing is here so that members of the public who may have information and observations about the entire thing can bring this to your attention, so that you have a very extensive scope of observations, knowledge, whatever. Some of them are gonna be factual, pieces of factual information that you incorporate into decision-making. Some of them would be opinions that you might agree with or might not agree with. So you have to satisfy yourself that the code is complied with to get a permissible site plan. Everything else is to help raise stuff for you to consider in making that judgment, but you're not, with any particular thing brought up by any particular person, it's brought to your attention, but then there's an evaluation. Is it factually correct? Is it substantive? Is it within the scope of the things that are going to be reviewed? It may or may not be, but there's an awful lot of information that's come up here.
Right.
A lot of it's directly relevant to be considered into the site plan, some of it hasn't been. But that's, those are the questions that have to be answered. There's a long list of them, and we'll be going through them, and there may be specific, different things are gonna be relevant to different aspects of it, but that's the guide. And
Right,
I would beg to differ in that the ultimate obligation of the board,
This isn't a conversation.
I got that, is to
You're all
protect the
done.
community. Your ultimate obligation is to protect the community, bottom line.
that's true. Our obligation is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare.
That's correct.
We have been following the code, and I think we're going above and beyond that. We are retaining the engineer. I'm just wondering, has a contract been written or a scope of services been developed for
Yes.
the engineer? Is that something that can be made public or not?
I don't have a specific, Bob sent some
last month we
emails
went
about
down
some of
and
the
made a
issues.
list.
I mean, everything that happens here is public.
We talked
Every
about
communication-
last meeting.
Right.
I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but,
Last meeting.
Right.
but there are certainly, there are a number of questions that we felt that we need expert, the board felt they need expert guidance on.
There
Yeah.
was,
It's been talked about before, but.
the
not
lighting.
about it.
There was, the two different reports, one on a geologist, one from Save Craryville, and the other one from the applicant. For the engineer to look at because of,
Okay, so if that scope is
in relationship to an aquifer,
been made public, if that
Look,
scope
yeah.
has been determined, could we post it on the town's website? Is a question, and just have it,
Certainly, I mean,
It's in the
anything to do with
minutes.
this stuff.
well,
Yeah.
just to make it more,
Yeah.
available, I think, information should be transparent and made available.
It's fine to do that, I mean,
That section of the minutes.
Or,
We talked last month about what the
Well,
engineer.
the whole minutes are posted.
Right.
Right. Non-associated.
I have a question about the DOT response. Did we get a letter from
No.
them? We only got this vague email. I think it's important to get a letter from Lance Gorney. All I have is
I'll ask
a vague email saying the study did not
Oh.
show any,
not vague, it's same.
well, it's
Yeah.
not,
But I mean, I can
But it
ask
should
you
be
for
on a letter, yeah.
yeah.
Chairman, that is as vague a message
This
as
study did not
Excuse
show
me,
anybody could create.
excuse me.
I know, I'm gonna get this on the record. Your
Well,
lack of
actually,
interest.
it is, we're not in the public hearing
No,
phase at this
talking.
point, we are talking.
again, ourselves.
I mean, the public comment period has been adjourned to the next month. The board is talking among themselves right
Then you should go into executive session.
No, we shouldn't.
No, you don't do that.
No, we shouldn't.
And it's
Everything that they
private.
talk about is for public,
that would be-
but everything is not a dialogue. There are periods of time where we have dialogue and invite the public comment, and then there are times when we can adjourn the public discussion part, and the board can talk about things.
Right.
Since
When,
the board is talking.
when is the dialogue? When is that gonna happen?
Okay,
Yeah,
why
I
don't
just
we
wonder, can we talk
show
amongst
this,
ourselves
and
here?
we'll move on to
Are we
the
allowed to
John
talk amongst
Barbado.
ourselves? They're talking there.
Okay.
I think that if with the meeting, we're allowed to talk also, amongst ourselves.
We
We're
can
not
email.
addressing
Excuse me.
the board.
If you're gonna talk, please go
Go out there.
outside. Thank you.
So you're
We're
allowed
trying
to
to
talk,
conduct
but the
business.
community can't talk with themselves privately.
That's
John
right,
Bar-
because we're having a public meeting here where we're required to carry on the business in front of the public. But it doesn't mean that every discussion is a back and forth.
Right.
The board does not do its deliberations in private. They talk about the issues, what they're thinking about in front of the general public. There's also a period of time where the public gets to participate in that, which we've done for the evening, and we'll do it again next month.
But that didn't apply last month. At the May 2nd meeting, when you discussed items after the public hearing ended? It's okay.